Make it sound right.
You just woke up, y'all. He just woke up.
Future's bright.
Yeah,
Future's bright, man.
How was your day so far? You got some rest?
Yeah, I needed that.
You know what you're wearing later?
Yeah, you know what you wear?
No, but I have a black heel, so I could just put anything on with it.
Alright, yeah. If you need something, you go get something.
Alright.
Make sure you put that.
The moment Blueface's new girlfriend entered the picture, the situation stopped being private and became a public spectacle. What should have been a simple announcement instantly turned into a digital wildfire, spreading faster than anyone could control. The internet didn't wait for explanations. It reacted first and asked questions later. Screenshots started circulating before the dust could even settle. Old clips resurfaced. Captions were dissected and fans weren't debating what happened. They were deciding what it meant. And once the internet assigns meaning, reality becomes optional. That's when things start spiraling out of control. What sent this into overdrive was the confidence behind the chaos. There was no hesitation, no soft launch, no attempt to ease the tension. The energy felt deliberate, like someone fully aware of the optics and choosing to lean in any way. That kind of boldness doesn't calm storms, it feeds them. Meanwhile, Jaidyn Alexis wasn't just watching from the sidelines. She was caught in the emotional blast radius, forced back into a narrative she thought was finished. And when emotions turn visible, especially online, sympathy and speculation move at lightning speed. From that point on, every move felt loaded. Not loud enough to confirm intent, but sharp enough to hurt. The kind of quiet provocation that keeps drama alive while pretending it doesn't exist. And that's how chaos officially took over before the chaos fully detonated. There was a fragile calm that fooled a lot of people. Jaidyn Alexis had settled into that quiet space reserved for exes who've survived public relationships and learned how to move without making noise. She wasn't chasing headlines, wasn't throwing subliminal shots, wasn't trying to rewrite history in real time. To most fans, it looked like closure had finally taken its place. But closure in the Blueface universe has always been temporary. It's less a destination and more a pause before the next plot twist kicks the door in. And when word started circulating that there was a new girlfriend in the picture, the reaction wasn't excitement. It was tension. People didn't ask if it was serious. They asked how long before it exploded. The reason that question came so fast is because history was already doing the talking. Jaidyn wasn't just an ex in the traditional sense. She was deeply tied to Blueface's personal narrative, his family structure, and the version of himself fans had grown used to. Even after breakups and public drama, there was an unspoken understanding that some lines stayed uncrossed. That understanding didn't last long. The leak didn't come with fireworks or a dramatic announcement. It slipped out casually, the way most chaos does through social media breadcrumbs that fans are trained to notice. A photo here, a comment there. A vibe that felt too confident to be accidental. Within minutes, people were connecting dots like conspiracy theorists with WIV. Once confirmation hit, reactions split instantly. Some fans shrugged and said it was inevitable because when peace ever lasted here, others felt something shift, like the tone was different this time. Not just a rebound, not just a fling. This felt like a statement disguised as romance, and statements always have targets. What made the situation combustible was how fast the new girlfriend stepped into visibility. There was no easing into the spotlight, no attempt to stay neutral, no sense of let me respect the past. The presence was loud without being noisy, bold without being explicit. That kind of confidence reads differently when emotions are already raw. And that's where Jaidyn's name re-entered the conversation. Not because she said anything, but because silence can be louder than words when everyone is watching. Fans noticed her absence, her lack of commentary, her sudden stillness online in an ecosystem built on reaction. Restraint becomes its own headline. Speculation filled the gaps immediately. People assumed how she felt, why she felt it, and what she must be thinking in private. Screenshots of old moments resurfaced, not as memories, but as ammunition. The past wasn't being remembered. It was being weaponized. The tension peaked when subtle actions started getting interpreted as deliberate moves. A song choice, a caption that felt just vague enough to deny intent, a smile that looked comfortable for the circumstances. None of it confirmed anything, but all of it suggested awareness. And awareness changes how every move is judged. Fans weren't just watching anymore. They were choosing sides. Some accused Jaidyn of playing victim by staying quiet. Others argued she was being forced into a narrative she never agreed to rejoin. Meanwhile, the new girlfriend's confidence kept reframing the situation as something already settled, already moved on from. That framing is what hurt the most. According to online sentiment, not the relationship itself, but the speed at which it erased the emotional weight of what came before. To the internet, it looked like a rewrite happening in real time. With no acknowledgement of the damage left behind, that's when empathy turned into outrage. The leak officially became a scandal when emotions turned visible. Fans began pointing out signs that Jaidyn wasn't just unbothered, but struggling. Whether those assumptions were accurate almost didn't matter, because perception had already taken control. Once people believe tears are involved, morality enters the chat. At that point, the story stopped being about a new relationship and started being about respect. Respect for history, respect for boundaries, respect for the emotional labor that doesn't disappear just because a relationship ends. And when people feel like respect has been skipped, they don't whisper about it, they amplify it. That by the end of that first wave, it was clear this wasn't a minor headline destined to fade. This was the beginning of a longer unraveling. One where every action would be dissected and every silence would be judged. The calm was gone, the lines were blurred, and the internet was officially locked in. And that was only the beginning. Once the story escaped the first shockwave, it didn't slow down. It mutated. What started as curiosity turned into commentary, and commentary turned into performance. The internet didn't just observe the situation anymore. It began participating in it. Every fan became an analyst. Every meme a verdict. Every repost a declaration of allegiance. Memes hit first, and they hit hard. Not the light-hearted kind either. These were sharp-layered and intentionally cruel. Side-by-sides comparing before and after captions dripping with sarcasm. Screenshots framed like evidence boards. Humor became the weapon of choice because laughing at chaos feels easier than sitting with it. Celebrities didn't even need to name names to fuel the fire. A vague tweet here. A knowing emoji there. The internet lives for implication, and implication did most of the heavy lifting. Fans treated every unrelated post like it was secretly about this situation. Reading between lines that may not have existed, but felt real anyway. What kept the momentum alive was how the new girlfriend continued to show up like nothing was wrong. Not defensive, not cautious, comfortable. That comfort read as confidence. And that confidence rubbed people the wrong way. Because when emotions are raw, comfort looks like disrespect. Even if it isn't meant to be, Jaidyn's silence became a character in the story all on its own. People projected entire monologues onto her absence. Some said she was choosing peace. Others said she was breaking quietly. Either way, the lack of response created a vacuum, and the internet hates empty space. It filled it with assumptions. Then came the comparisons. Fans stacked timelines against each other, like competing documentaries. Who was there first?
Who supported what?
Who benefited from whose sacrifice? Suddenly, this wasn't about love or relationships. It was about credit. And credit disputes always turn ugly. Pop culture analogies flooded in because that's how the internet processes mess. People compared the situation to reality TV breakups, celebrity triangles, even scripted drama arcs. The consensus was brutal. This didn't feel organic. It felt staged by fate and amplified by social media addiction. As outrage grew, so did creativity. Think pieces emerged disguised as captions. Long comments read like courtroom closings. Everyone had a theory, and each theory came with a villain, a victim, and a plot twist. Facts blurred, emotions sharpened, and objectivity quietly exited the conversation. The wisest part was how quickly the narrative hardened. Within days, Opinions weren't flexible anymore. They were locked. You were either defending confidence or condemning cruelty. There was no middle ground. Nuance doesn't trend. And this situation was trending everywhere. Meanwhile, the new girlfriend's every move became a Rorschach test. A smile was arrogance. A neutral post was shade. A happy moment was read as provocation. The internet decided intention based on feeling, not evidence, and feelings were running the show. Jaidyn's emotional state became a topic of speculation, so intense it bordered on invasive. Fans analyzed facial expressions from old videos, reading pain into moments that once seemed casual. The past was reinterpreted to fit the present, and suddenly history itself felt rewritten. This was the stage where empathy started competing with entertainment. Some people genuinely felt for Jaidyn. Others treated her pain like contempt, and that tension between concern and consumption exposed something uncomfortable about how scandals survive online. What should have cooled down instead escalated into cultural commentary. People weren't just discussing these individuals anymore. They were debating themes, loyalty, boundaries, debating themes, loyalty, boundaries, replacement culture, emotional responsibility. The situation became symbolic, a stand-in for conversations much bigger than the people involved. And through it all, Blueface remained the silent axis everything spun around. His absence from the narrative didn't neutralize the chaos. It intensified it. Silence from the center leaves room for everyone else to shout louder. And shout they did not. By the time the second wave peaked, the situation had fully transformed. It wasn't news anymore. It was lore, a storyline fans felt invested in, protective over, and personally connected to. That's when it stopped being controllable. Because once the internet feels ownership over a narrative, it doesn't let go. It demands escalation. It craves fallout. And it watches closely for cracks, knowing they're always coming. The storm wasn't passing. It was reorganizing itself for what came next. By the time the noise reached its peak, the damage was already done. This wasn't about rumors anymore or online theatrics that fade after a few scrolls. The situation had hardened into something permanent. A shift in perception that doesn't reverse just because the timeline moves on. Once people feel a story, they carry it with them. Jaidyn Alexis became the emotional center of the aftermath. Whether she wanted that role or not, sympathy followed her everywhere, sticky and unavoidable. Every neutral post was read as strength. Every quiet moment was interpreted as resilience. The internet decided she was enduring something unfair. And once the narrative locked in, it shaped how everything else was viewed. At the same time, the new girlfriend's image began to calcify in the opposite direction. Confidence that once looked empowering started to read as cold. Silence felt strategic. Happiness looked premature. Even actions that might have been harmless in another context now came with heavy assumptions attached. Reputation doesn't change overnight. It tilts slowly, then all at once. The most uncomfortable consequence was how personal pain became public property. Jaidyn's emotional state was discussed like a plot point instead of a human experience. People debated her healing as if it were a timeline prediction, forgetting that recovery doesn't follow algorithms or schedules. That's when compassion quietly started fighting with consumption. Blueface's absence in the conversation finally stopped being neutral. What once felt like strategic silence began to read as avoidance. Fans questioned responsibility, accountability, and emotional awareness. When someone stands at the center of repeated chaos and never addresses the fallout, the silence itself becomes a statement. Relationships around the situation began to feel strained even from the outside. Fans speculated about trust, loyalty, and whether the new relationship could survive under this level of scrutiny. Love that starts in controversy doesn't get the luxury of privacy. It has to prove itself while being watched. Public perception shifted in waves. Some people doubled down on defending confidence and moving on. Others felt the situation highlighted deeper patterns of emotional carelessness. The debate stopped being about individuals and started reflecting larger cultural conversations about how easily people get replaced and how quickly history gets erased. For Jaidyn, the aftermath wasn't loud. It was heavy. She didn't need to say much for people to project meaning onto her every move. Her restraint became her message. And restraint in a world addicted to reaction reads like maturity. Whether intended or not, the internet, however, never truly resolves anything. It just moves forward carrying unresolved feelings like baggage. This situation joined the long list of scandals that don't disappear, only resurface when the next chapter drops. And everyone involved knew it. What lingered most was the sense that something fragile had been broken. Not a relationship that was already over, but an understanding. The idea that some emotional histories deserve careful handling, even after romance ends. Once that belief cracks, trust in future narratives erodus. As days passed, engagement slowed, but interest didn't vanish. The story simply went underground waiting. Fans saved screenshots. Commentators bookmarked moments. The internet never forgets. It just waits for relevance to return. This wasn't closure. It was an intermission. The kind where the audience stays seated, whispering theories, checking phones, waiting for the lights to dim again. Because everyone knows this universe doesn't end quietly. And that's the real aftermath. Not tears, not outrage, not memes, but the permanent sense that another chapter is inevitable. That this wasn't the end of the story, just the part where consequences settle in and resentment learns how to simmer so while the timeline scrolls on and new chaos competes for attention. This one stays bookmarked in collective memory. A reminder that confidence, without care, leaves wreckage. That silence has weight. And that when emotions get turned into content, somebody always pays a price. The calm returned, but it wasn't peace. It was the quiet before the next headline. And this is the part where you don't just scroll away like nothing happened. Because if you made it this far, you already know this wasn't just relationship drama. This was ego, optics, silence, and emotional landmines wrapped in Wi-Fi and delivered straight to your timeline. And let's be honest, this story is not done. It's just stretching before the next sprint. So go ahead and smash that like button like it owes you money and duck your calls. Hit it hard because every like tells the algorithm you want more chaos served hot, not reheated. And drop a comment because silence helps nobody who crossed the line, who played it smart, and who knew exactly what they were doing from jump. Subscribe if you're tired of watered-down takes and allegedly whispered like a bedtime story. This is where the mess gets unpacked. The subtext gets dragged into daylight and nobody pretends the internet doesn't play favorites. Scandals don't take days off here. They respond, turn on notifications so the next bombshell doesn't catch you late because while other channels wait for press releases, this one watches patterns and patterns don't lie. People do not remember confidence. Without care always leaves debris, silence always speaks, and the internet never forgets who flinched first. So stay locked in, stay messy, and stay watching because if this chaos taught us anything, it's that the next headline is already loading. Welcome to Vibe Crave, where the drama never cools. It just reloads.